The diplomatic station floated at the edge of Concord space like a jewel against the black void. It had been built centuries ago for meetings with newly discovered species. Today, it would host an encounter that no one had ever imagined possible. Inside the main chamber, representatives from all 12 elder species waited. They had come with guards and advisors and translators. They had come with questions and fears and carefully hidden weapons. None of them knew what to expect. Counselor Malthon stood at the front, his scaled hands clasped behind his back. The Vraxin were warriors. They had built their reputation on strength and conquest. But even he felt something strange in his chest. As he watched the viewing screens, the human fleet had arrived an hour ago. They had expected primitives. Survivors clinging to life on old ships, held together with hope and rust. Perhaps a few thousand refugees, desperate for help after wandering the stars for millennia. What they saw instead made them feel very small. 200 vessels emerged from fold space in perfect formation. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Dark hulls that seemed to drink in the light. Weapon systems that the Concord sensors could not fully analyze. Engines that burned with an energy signature more powerful than anything in the known galaxy. And at the center of the fleet was the flagship, the Unbroken Oath. It was 3 times larger than the biggest Concord dreadnought. Its surface was covered in symbols and markings that told stories no one here could read. Now, a shuttle was approaching the station. The humans were coming aboard. "Remember," Malthon said to the assembled representatives, "we must show strength. We are the elder races. We have guided this galaxy for 10,000 years. Whatever these humans have become, they are still newcomers." No one looked convinced. The chamber doors opened. 12 figures walked in. They wore simple uniforms, dark gray with silver markings. Their movements were calm and confident. At the front was a woman with short black hair and eyes that glowed faintly silver. Artificial, the Concord scientists would later confirm. Enhanced. She stopped in the center of the chamber and looked around. Her gaze moved across the assembled aliens without fear or wonder. She had seen stranger things, Dadlook said. Many stranger things. "I am Ambassador Yara Chun of the Terran Continuity," she said. Her voice was soft but carried easily through the chamber. "On behalf of humanity, I thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Malthon stepped forward. "I am Counselor Malthon, voice of the High Council. We have many questions, Ambassador. Chief among them, how are you here? Our records state that your species destroyed itself 4,000 years ago." Ambassador Chun smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone remembering something painful. "Your records are not wrong," she said. "We did nearly destroy ourselves. The fire came closer than anyone today can imagine. Billions died in hours. Our world burned. Our civilization collapsed. Those who survived were scattered, broken, and alone." She paused. The chamber was completely silent. "But we did survive. In underground shelters. In orbital stations. In colonies on distant moons that your observers never found. We survived, and we learned from our mistakes. We unified. Not through conquest or force, but through shared suffering. We decided that we would never again destroy ourselves. And we decided that we would never again be weak." 4,000 years, said Thelanva from her position among the Safari delegation. "What have you been doing for 4,000 years?" "Watching, learning, building." Ambassador Chun turned to face the archivist. "We found your probe drones within a century of our recovery. We learned about the Concord. We studied your technology, your politics, your history. We sent our own observers to watch your worlds. We learned everything about you." A murmur ran through the chamber. The elder species were not accustomed to being studied. They were the ones who watched others. "If you have been watching us for so long, Malthan said slowly. Why reveal yourselves now? Why not stay hidden? Because we need your help. And you need ours. Malthan's scales rippled with surprise. We need nothing from you, human. The Concord has maintained peace and order in this galaxy for millennia. We are strong. You are strong, Ambassador Chun agreed. But you are not strong enough. Not for what is coming. She raised her hand. A small device in her palm projected a holographic image into the air. It showed a region of space beyond the galactic rim. The deep black between galaxies where nothing lived and nothing grew. But something was there. Moving, approaching. We call them the Hollow, she said. We first detected them 200 years ago. They are not like any species you have encountered. They do not conquer. They do not negotiate. They do not colonize. They consume. Every world they touch is stripped bare. Every species they encounter is eliminated. They leave nothing behind but empty rock and silence. The chamber erupted in voices. Fear and disbelief and denial all mixed together. You expect us to believe this? Malthan demanded. This is clearly a trick. A way to frighten us into accepting your presence. I expect nothing, Ambassador Chun replied calmly. I am simply telling you the truth. The Hollow will reach Concord space within 50 years. Perhaps sooner. When they arrive, you will face a choice. Fight together or die alone. She looked around the chamber one final time. We came back because we remember what it felt like to be alone. To face extinction with no one coming to help. We would not wish that on anyone. Not even those who forgot us. She turned and walked toward the door. Her delegation followed in silence. Ambassador, Thelenvio called out. Where are your homeworlds? How many of you are there? Yara Chun stopped but did not turn around. Those answers will come in time, Archivist. For now, know only this. We have returned. And we will not abandon you, even if you choose to abandon yourselves. The doors closed behind her. The chamber remained silent for a long time. Outside the viewing windows, the human fleet waited. Patient, powerful, unyielding. The galaxy had changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. 1 week after the invasion began, Commander Zorathkol stood alone on the observation deck of the consuming shadow and watched his fleet die. The numbers told a story he could not accept. 2 million soldiers had landed on Earth. Fewer than 300,000 remained alive, and most of those were wounded or captured. 40% of his fleet drifted in orbit as burning wreckage. His remaining ships were damaged, low on supplies, and surrounded by human vessels that multiplied every day. The humans had not just defended their world. They had won. And now they were coming for him. Human ships surrounded the consuming shadow in a ring of metal and fire. They were ugly things, built from scrap and desperation, held together with what looked like determination and spite. But their weapons worked. Their shields held. And there were so many of them. Zorathkal received a communication request. A human wanted to speak with him. He accepted. General Catherine Shaw appeared on his screen. She looked different than she had on that first day in Kansas. Her shoulder was bandaged where a soldier had shot her. There were new lines on her face, new gray in her hair. But her eyes were the same, cold, steady, victorious. Commander Zorathkal, she said, I believe we have things to discuss. Zorathkal had considered his options carefully. He could fight to the death. He could take his own life rather than face the shame of surrender. He could order his remaining ships to ram the human fleet and kill as many as possible, but he was tired. So very tired. What do you want? He asked. A meeting. Face to face. Under a flag of truce. Shaw's smile was thin. You have my word that you will not be harmed. After all, We need someone alive to deliver our message. Zorathkal agreed. He had no choice. The meeting took place aboard the Consuming Shadow, in a conference room that had been designed to intimidate conquered species. It did not seem to intimidate General Shaw. She walked in with 2 guards, looked around the room with mild interest, and sat down across from Zorathkal as if she owned the place. Perhaps she did. "I will be direct," Shaw said. "We are not interested in your surrender." Zorathkal blinked. "Then, what do you want?" "We want you to return to your dominion and deliver a message. We want you to tell them exactly what happened here. Every detail. Every death. Every defeat." Shaw leaned forward. "We want them to know what happens when someone invades Earth." "You would let us leave?" Zorathkal could not believe it. "After everything we have done?" "We will let you leave," Shaw confirmed, "but not without conditions." She placed a data tablet on the table. On it was a document written in both human and Vetsari languages. A treaty. First, you will release every species the Dominion has conquered. All 47 of them. They will be given their worlds back, their freedom back, their right to govern themselves. Zorathkal shook his head. "The Dominion will never agree to." "They will agree," Shaw interrupted, "because you will tell them what you saw here. You will tell them about the 3 million soldiers who were waiting for you, about the weapons we had prepared, about the way our people fought, about the children who picked up guns and the old soldiers who came out of retirement and the civilians who built barricades while bombs fell around them." She paused. "You will tell them that Earth has finished mourning its dead. Now it is angry. And an angry humanity, united, with nothing left to lose and a galaxy full of tyrants to hold accountable." She smiled. "You have seen what we do to each other. Imagine what we will do to you." Zorathkal looked at the treaty. The terms were harsh. Reparations, trials for war crimes, complete withdrawal from all conquered systems. It would cost the Dominion everything they had built over 8,000 years. "And if we refuse?" he asked quietly. Shaw's smile faded. "Then we will build more ships. We will train more soldiers. We will come to your worlds, one by one, and we will do to you what you tried to do to us." Her voice was cold. "You came here believing you were predators, and we were prey. You were wrong. We are the most dangerous species this galaxy has ever produced. We have been killing each other for 10,000 years. We have developed weapons that can crack planets, poisons that can wipe out populations, strategies that would make your commanders weep." She stood up. "We did not want this war. We were content to live on our little world and fight among ourselves. But you came to our home. You killed our people. You threatened our children." Her eyes burned with a fury that Zorathkal had never seen in any species. "And for that, we will hunt the Dominion to the ends of the universe if we must. There will be no hiding, no escape, no mercy." She pushed the treaty across the table. "Sign this, and it ends here. Refuse, and it ends with the destruction of everything your species has ever built. The choice is yours." Zorathkal looked at the treaty for a long moment. He thought about his fleet burning in orbit. He thought about his soldiers dying in human fields. He thought about the child with the weapon and the old soldier who kept getting up, and the medics who worked while bombs fell around them. He thought about what his Dominion would face if it refused. And he signed. 10 years later, the Galactic Accord held its founding anniversary on a space station orbiting Earth. Representatives from 64 species gathered to celebrate a decade of peace. Worlds that had been conquered for millennia were now free. Tyrants who had ruled for generations were now prisoners. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely, becoming something better. At the center of the celebration stood a statue. It depicted a human soldier, battered and bloodied, armor torn, wounds visible. The soldier was not beautiful or heroic in the traditional sense. They looked tired, broken, on the edge of collapse, but they were still standing. The plaque beneath the statue read, "They came to conquer. They found us waiting. They left as equals, or not at all." General Catherine Shaw, now retired, stood before the statue and remembered the day it had all begun. She remembered the fear she had felt when the alien ships appeared in the sky. She remembered the determination she had felt when she had decided to fight. She remembered the pride she had felt when humanity, for the first time in its history, had set aside its differences and become one people. A young alien approached her. He was from one of the species the Dominion had conquered centuries ago. His people had been slaves until humanity freed them. "General Shaw," he said, "I wanted to thank you for what your species did, for giving us our world back." Shaw shook her head. "Do not thank me. Thank the soldiers who died defending hospitals. Thank the children who refused to hide. Thank the old soldiers who came out of retirement. Thank every human who picked up a weapon and stood their ground." She looked at the statue. "We did not do this alone. Every person on Earth contributed. Every nation, every family, every individual. When we were threatened, we became one. That is what saved us. That is what made us strong." The young alien nodded slowly. "Your species is remarkable. The stories they tell about you. Some believe you are monsters. Others believe you are heroes." "Which is true?" Shaw smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. "Both. Neither. We are simply human. We are capable of terrible things. We have proven that many times throughout our history. But we are also capable of great things, of sacrifice and courage and love." She paused. "When it matters most, when everything is at stake, we find a way to be more than we are. That is our gift. That is our curse." She looked out the window at Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. "We are not perfect. We never will be. But we will never stop trying to be better. And we will never, ever stop fighting for the things that matter." The young alien followed her gaze to the planet below. "Do you think there will be more wars?" he asked. Shaw considered the question for a long moment. "There will always be those who seek to conquer others. There will always be tyrants and invaders, and those who believe might makes right. The universe is not a safe place." She turned to face him. "But as long as there are humans, there will be someone to stand against them. Someone to say no when everyone else is afraid. Someone to fight when everyone else wants to run." She smiled. "That is who we are. That is what we do." She walked away, leaving the young alien alone with the statue. He looked at it for a long time. At the battered soldier who refused to fall. At the plaque with its simple message. And he understood. Humanity was not the most advanced species in the galaxy. They were not the oldest or the wisest. They did not have the best technology or the largest population or the most powerful weapons. But they had something else. Something that made them dangerous. Something that made them terrifying. They had the will to fight. The refusal to surrender. The absolute determination to stand their ground no matter the cost. They had come from a world of war and death and suffering. They had survived everything the universe could throw at them. They had proven, beyond any doubt, that they could not be broken. And now, with the galaxy watching, they were ready to prove it again. The young alien smiled and walked away. The statue remained, standing guard over a species that would never stop fighting for what was right. And somewhere in the vastness of space, other civilizations watched Earth and remembered the lesson the Vexari had learned. Too late. Never invade Earth. Because the Terran soldiers are always waiting for battle. 3 months had passed since the humans revealed themselves. In that time, the Galactic Concord had been torn apart by debate. Some wanted to welcome the Terran continuity as allies. Others wanted to destroy them before they became a threat. Most simply did not know what to think. Today, a joint intelligence session was being held on the neutral world of Kethros. Human military officers sat across from Concord commanders. For the first time, they would share what they knew about the Hollow. General Yusuf Okonkwo represented the Terran Defense Force. He was a tall man with dark skin and gray hair cut short against his skull. His face was marked with scars from battles he never spoke about. When he entered the room, even the Vraxan warriors felt a chill run down their spines. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice deep and steady. "I know many of you do not trust us. That is understandable. We have been gone for a long time. But what I am about to show you is not a matter of trust. It is a matter of survival." He activated the display system. Images appeared in the air. Ships unlike anything the Concorde had ever seen. Massive, organic, twisted into shapes that hurt the eyes to look at. "The Hollow do not build their vessels," General Okonkwo explained. "They grow them. We believe they harvest biomass from the worlds they consume and use it to create more of their kind. Every planet they destroy makes them stronger." The images changed. Now they showed worlds. Beautiful worlds with blue oceans and green forests. Then the same worlds after the Hollow had visited. Gray, dead, nothing left but bare rock and dust. "We have identified 47 civilizations that were destroyed by the Hollow over the past 10,000 years, the general continued. "Your archives mention some of them. Species that simply vanished without explanation. Now you know why." Councilor Maltham leaned forward. His scales had gone pale. "If this threat is so ancient, why have we never encountered them?" "Because they move slowly. They travel between galaxies, consuming everything in their path, then moving on. They approached our galaxy from the far rim. They will reach Concord space within 50 years. Perhaps less." A Sithari scientist raised a hand. "How do we know your information is accurate? Have you actually fought these creatures?" General Okonkwo was silent for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with memory. "Yes, we have fought them. 30 years ago, they reached the outer edge of human territory. A colony world called New Brisbane. 12 million people lived there." He paused. 18,000 survived. "We evacuated who we could before their fleet arrived. Then we fought. We lost 40 ships and 10,000 soldiers. But we stopped them. We pushed them back. It was the first defeat the Hollow had ever suffered." The chamber was silent. Even Maltham could find no words. "We learned much from that battle," the general continued. "We learned their weaknesses. We developed weapons that can hurt them. But we also learned the truth. Alone, we cannot win. They are too many. They adapt too quickly. We need allies. We need the Concord." A Vraxan commander named Torith stood up. He was young and proud, his scales bright with the colors of his house. "You speak of needing us, but I have seen no proof of your strength. Words are easy. Show us what your ships can do." General Okonkwo studied the young warrior for a moment. Then he smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Very well. I propose a demonstration. A simulated combat exercise. One of our corvettes against your best battle group. No live weapons. Only training rounds. We will see who is stronger." Torith's eyes burned with excitement. "I accept. My battle group is stationed in orbit. 7 vessels, including my flagship. We will show these humans what Vraxan warriors can do." 1 hour later, the exercise began. Torith commanded from his flagship, the Crimson Fang. Around him, 6 other Vraxan warships held formation. They were the finest vessels in the Concord, Fleet, fast, powerful, armed with weapons that could crack planets. Against them came a single ship, the Quiet Defiance, a Terran corvette, barely 1/10 the size of Torith's flagship. It looked almost fragile against the massive Raxan formation. "All ships, engage," Torith ordered. He was confident. This would be easy. The Raxan opened fire. Hundreds of training rounds streaked toward the human vessel. Energy beams lit up the void. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Nothing hit. The rounds bent around the Terran, hull as if pushed aside by an invisible hand. The beings scattered like light through a prism. The Quiet Defiance moved through the storm untouched. Then it attacked. Torith did not see what happened next. It was too fast. One moment his shields were at full strength. The next, they were gone. His weapons went offline. His engines died. Warning lights filled his command deck. He looked at the display screen. All 7 of his ships had been disabled. The entire battle group, helpless. The exercise had lasted less than 4 minutes. The communication system crackled. General Okonkwo's voice came through. "I hope this demonstration was satisfactory, Commander Torith. Your ships will be operational again within the hour. Our weapons are designed to disable, not destroy. We prefer to make allies, not corpses." Torith sat in his darkened command chair for a long time. His pride burned with shame. But beneath the shame, something else grew. Respect and fear. That night, the High Council met in emergency session. The vote was close. Many still feared humanity. Many still doubted their intentions. But in the end, the choice was clear. The Concord agreed to form an alliance with the Terran continuity. Together, they would face the Hollow Dot as she left the council chamber. Thelenvior found Ambassador Chun waiting in the corridor. "You could have conquered us," the Alchemist said quietly. "Your technology is far beyond ours. You could have taken everything." Ambassador Chun shook her head. "Conquest is easy. Building something that lasts is hard. We learned that lesson long ago, on a burning world that we almost lost forever." She looked out a window at the stars. "We did not return to rule the galaxy. We returned to save it, even from itself." She walked away, leaving Valvar alone with her thoughts. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, the Hollow continued their endless march toward everything that lived. The Vound system was a garden. 12 billion people lived on its 3 habitable worlds. Farms stretched across entire continents, producing food that fed 100 other planets. Children played in fields of golden grain beneath warm yellow suns. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was everything the Concord had built over 10,000 years. On the morning, the sky darkened. No one was ready. Admiral Sareth of the Concord Defense Fleet was the first to see the readings. His command ship, the Eternal Vigil, hung in high orbit above Valen Prime. He had been reviewing supply reports when the sensors screamed to life. Ships were emerging from fold space. Hundreds of them. They came in waves, tearing holes in reality itself. Their forms were wrong, organic, twisted. They looked like creatures from a nightmare, given physical shape. The Hollow had arrived, 50 years ahead of every prediction. "All ships, battle formation," Admiral Sareth commanded. His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking. "Send emergency signals to every fleet in range. Activate planetary shields. Begin civilian evacuation." The Concord fleet moved to intercept. 42 warships, the pride of the Valen sector. They opened fire with everything they had. It was not enough. Concord weapons struck hollow vessels and did little damage. The organic hulls absorbed energy blasts like water soaking into sand. Projectiles bounced off or became stuck in the strange flesh. For every wound the Concorde inflicted, the hollow ships seemed to heal almost instantly. The return fire was devastating. The hollow did not use conventional weapons. They launched biological projectiles that ate through shields and hulls. They sprayed clouds of microscopic machines that disabled engines and life support. Ships that were touched began to change, their metal transforming into something alive and terrible. In the first hour, the Concorde lost 18 vessels. Admiral Sarath watched the display screen as his fleet was torn apart. Below, the planetary shields flickered and died. Landing craft began descending toward Valen Prime. "Where are the reinforcements?" he demanded. "Where are the humans?" No one answered. The communication channels were full of screaming and static. Then something changed. New energy signatures appeared at the edge of the system. Not the twisted signatures of the hollow. These were clean, powerful, familiar. The Terran Third Fleet emerged from fold space in perfect formation. 60 vessels, led by the flagship Iron Memory. Admiral Kenji Tanaka stood on his command deck, watching the carnage with steady eyes. "All ships engage," he said simply. The Terran fleet moved like a single organism. They did not charge blindly into battle. They spread out, surrounding the hollow forces, cutting off escape routes. Their ships moved with a precision that made the Concorde. Vessels looked clumsy. Then they opened fire. Terran weapons were different. Gravitational lances that created crushing forces inside hollow vessels, tearing them apart from within. Swarm missiles that carry payloads of nanomachines designed specifically to attack organic material. Energy beams tuned to frequencies that hollow flesh could not absorb. The first hollow ship exploded. Then another. But the hollow adapted quickly. They began to focus their attacks on the human fleet. Massive biological weapons fired toward the Iron Memory. Clouds of killer machines swarmed toward Terran hulls. Admiral Tanaka watched calmly as the attacks approached. Then he gave a single order: deploy the Reapers. From every Terran ship, small craft launched into the void. They were piloted by humans in powered armor. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. The Reapers flew directly into the hollow fleet, landing on enemy vessels, cutting through organic hulls with plasma torches, and detonating charges deep inside. It was madness. It was suicide. It was the most beautiful and terrible thing Admiral Sarath had ever seen. The battle lasted 9 hours. 9 hours of fire and death and desperate courage. The hollow threw everything they had at the combined fleet. For every ship destroyed, they sent 2 more into the fight. Their adaptation was remarkable. Weapons that worked in the first hour became useless by the third. But the humans adapted faster. Every time the hollow developed a defense, Terran scientists created a new attack. Every time the hollow tried to retreat, human ships cut them off. It was not just technology that won the battle. It was will. The humans simply refused to stop fighting. When the last hollow ship finally fled into fold space, the system fell silent. Debris floated everywhere. The wreckage of hundreds of vessels, both organic and metal, drifted in the void. Valen was saved. But the cost was terrible. The Concorde had lost 31 ships. Nearly 40,000 crew members were dead. 2 of Valen Prime's major cities had been touched by hollow landing parties. The survivors spoke of horrors that would haunt them forever. The Terran fleet had lost 2 vessels. The Quiet Defiance, the same corvette that had humiliated Tarath, and a destroyer called the Last Promise. Over 2,000 human soldiers and crew had died. That night, Admiral Tanaka held a memorial service on the Iron Memory. The surviving crew gathered in the main hangar. Holographic images of the dead floated in the air like ghosts. Admiral Sarath attended as a guest. He watched as the humans mourned their fallen. There were no speeches about glory or honor. Only names. Only faces. Only tears. A young Terran officer stood beside him. Her eyes were red from crying. "I always heard that humans were cold," Sarah said quietly. "That you cared only about war and victory." The officer shook her head. "We care about war because we understand what it costs. Every name up there is a universe that no longer exists. A future that will never happen. We do not celebrate death. We carry it with us always." Sarah looked at the holographic faces. Humans of every color and shape. Young and old. All of them gone. "Why do you fight so hard?" he asked. "Why risk so much for people who forgot you existed?" The officer turned to face him. Her eyes were hard, despite the tears. "Because 4,000 years ago, we faced extinction alone. No one came to help us. No one even remembered we existed. We survived, but we never forgot that feeling. The loneliness. The despair. The belief that we were worthless." She looked back at the memorial. "We fight so hard because we refuse to let anyone else feel what we felt. Even those who wrote us off as dead. Even those who never knew our names. Everyone deserves someone who will stand beside them in the dark." Admiral Sarah stood in silence for a long time. When the memorial ended, he returned to his own ship. He had a report to write. The Concorde needed to know what had happened here. They needed to know that the humans were not their enemies. They were their salvation. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Valen. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The Galactic Concorde no longer existed. In its place stood the United Galactic Compact, a new alliance forged in fire and blood. Humanity was no longer a forgotten species. They were founding members, standing equal with the elder races who had once written them off as extinct. On 100 worlds, former enemies now worked side by side. Terran engineers taught Vraxan crews how to maintain gravitational weapons. Sithari scientists to study human medicine and found cures for diseases that had plagued their people for centuries. Soldiers who had never spoken to an alien now ate together, trained together, and bled together. The war against the Hollow was not over. Far from it. Every few weeks, reports came in of new attacks on the outer systems. The enemy had been hurt at Valen, but they had not been destroyed. They were regrouping, adapting, preparing for the next assault. But for the first time in recorded history, the galaxy faced the threat as one. General Yusuf Akonko stood in the war room of the new Joint Command Center on Kethros. Around him, officers from a dozen species studied holographic maps and debated strategy. The arguments were loud and sometimes heated. Different species had different ideas about how to fight, different traditions, different fears, but they were talking. That was what mattered. "The Hollow have been quiet for 3 months," said Commander Torith. The young Vraxan had changed since his humiliation at the hands of the Quiet Defiance. He was calmer now, wiser. He had fought beside human soldiers at Valen and learned that strength came in many forms. "Our scouts report large fleet movements beyond the rim. They are building something. They are preparing for a major offensive," General Okonkwo agreed. "Our analysts believe they will strike within 6 months. Probably sooner. Then, we must strike first," said Admiral Sarath. He had survived Valen, but the battle had left marks on him that would never heal. "Take the fight to them before they reach our worlds." "We agree," said a Sithari admiral named Veleth. "But such an offensive will require resources we do not have. Ships, soldiers, weapons. We will have them." Ambassador Yara Chun entered the room. She had aged in the past year. Her silver eyes were tired, and her movements were slower than before. But her voice was still strong. "The Terran continuity is releasing the location of 3 of our hidden shipyards. We will share our production facilities with the Compact. Together, We can build a fleet large enough to challenge the Hollow in their own territory." The room fell silent. This was unprecedented. Humanity had guarded the secrets of their civilization carefully. Sharing their shipyards meant trusting the other species completely. "Why?" asked Counselor Malthon. He had opposed the alliance from the beginning. Even now, after everything, he remained suspicious. "Why share this now?" Ambassador Chen looked at him with something like pity. "Because we cannot win alone. We have known this from the beginning. Our strength was never in our ships or our weapons. It was in understanding that survival requires more than just power. It requires connection, trust, love, even if you can believe that." She walked to the holographic display and brought up an image. It showed the crystal world of Vareth, where the archives had once declared humanity extinct. "Tomorrow, a monument will be unveiled on Vareth. It will stand in the same hall where our death was recorded. The monument will bear 2 inscriptions. The first is from our initial transmission when we revealed ourselves. 'We have not forgotten you.'" She paused, her eyes moving across the assembled officers. "The second inscription is new. It is our promise to the galaxy. It says, 'And we will not abandon you.'" The ceremony took place the next morning. Representatives from every species in the compact attended. The monument was simple. A black stone pillar, 3 meters tall, with the inscriptions carved in letters of gold. Around it, the crystal towers of Vareth reflected the light of 1,000 suns. Archivist Thelen Veo stood at the front of the crowd. She had been chosen to speak on behalf of the Concord's former member species. Her voice trembled slightly as she addressed the assembled beings. 4,000 years ago, we made a mistake. We looked at a burning world and decided that its people were beyond saving. We wrote them off. We forgot them. We moved on with our lives as if they had never existed. She looked at the monument. We were wrong. The humans survived. They rebuilt. They grew stronger than any of us could have imagined. And when they finally returned, they did not come for revenge. They did not come to conquer or destroy. They came to help. They came to save us from a threat we did not even know existed. Her eyes found Ambassador Chen in the crowd. Today, we honor that choice. We honor the species that refused to become what their suffering might have made them. We honor the humans, not for their strength or their technology, but for their hearts. For their ability to remember pain and choose compassion anyway. The crowd was silent. Even Counselor Malthon said nothing. After the ceremony, Ambassador Chen stood on the observation deck of the Unbroken Oath. The flagship had remained in orbit, above Vareth as a symbol of the new alliance. General Okonkwo joined her at the viewport. "Do you think we can win?" she asked, staring at the stars. Okonkwo considered the question for a long moment. "Against the Hollow? I do not know. They are ancient, vast. They have destroyed civilizations that were old when our ancestors were still learning to make fire." He turned to face her. "But I think we have already won something more important. For 4,000 years, we survived alone. We carried our trauma and our fear in silence. We trusted no one because we believed that trust would only lead to more pain." He gestured at the fleet assembling in orbit. Ships from a dozen species, flying in formation, preparing for the long campaign ahead. "Now look at us. We are not alone anymore. We have partners, allies, friends, even. Whatever happens next, we face it together. That is a victory that no enemy can take from us." Ambassador Chen nodded slowly. She thought of the burning world her ancestors had inherited, the ashes they had built their civilization from, the long, dark centuries of isolation and fear. And she thought of the future. A future where humanity stood not as conquerors or rulers, but as part of something greater. A family of species, united against the darkness. Humanity almost ended in fire, she said quietly. Now we carry the torch for everyone." The general smiled. "Then let us make sure the torch never goes out." Below them, the fleet completed its formation. Engines powered up. Navigation systems locked onto distant coordinates. The long road forward was just beginning. It would be hard. It would be painful. Many would not live to see its end. But for the first time in 4,000 years, humanity was not walking that road alone. And that made all the difference.